Hey, this is John with Coach.Win. I'm excited to talk to my partner Rob about just how he's gone about strategy and planning, and he calls himself an embedded coach. So, Rob, a lot of people know about strategy planning out there in the world, the 2-day annuals, the quarterlies. You've obviously elevated your game. Tell us how you're a little different and kind of focus on what happens between sessions and how you help clients.
Yeah, I found, and it was actually a kind of an accidental event during COVID, is obviously we had to start getting more engaged with clients in a different way. It wasn't anymore just being in person. And I realized that, with the tools today and everybody working from home, it would be just as easy for me to be embedded in the team, be a part of their Microsoft team. So with most of my clients, I have a login to their, I have an email address with their domain. I have a login. I'm part of all the critical teams in Microsoft Teams. I'm there, part of their dashboards, and I can see what's going on with their progress throughout the quarter. And what I've found is that it just gives a different level of access. When people just see me as part of the team as opposed to an outside third-party coach, they're more likely to engage me in kind of the challenges and problems that they have day to day. So it's been really interesting. The other thing is when you get an email from your coach, you're kind of like, okay, I'll get to that later. But I literally just go into Teams and I just open up a chat and start having chats. I can see their calendar. I can see if they're available. We can collaborate on documents right away. And it's really been a game changer to just be part of the team.
That's incredible that that's a service, and I can see the value of that. So let's talk about what you've seen, like in the sense of what are the challenges of leadership teams having to execute on the strategy, and maybe how you're helping with that as well.
Yeah, always the biggest challenge, of course, is always trying to do too much. And I think one of the areas where I really help is getting people to narrow down what's going to really move the needle, what's the most important. It's easy. I think we've gotten to this point where planning has kind of almost become, I dare say, a commodity. Like we all know now the basics of coming in and saying, here are the 4 or 5 things we're going to do this quarter. And okay, we're going to go build a plan and we're going to talk about our rocks and just the normal stuff. I think it's gotten pretty easy for people to be able to navigate that. But there's a big difference when you talk about, are we actually doing the most important rocks to move the company forward? And what I tend to find is people do too much, and they tend to do things that aren't moving the needle. And one of the big changes that I've made over the years is transitioning to OKRs from just rocks. And the reason I like the OKRs is it adds that level of accountability with actual key results that we measure. Like, what's the point of implementing a new CRM if it's not moving the needle on a metric? And I think that's where a lot of coaches don't ask that question. They're like, oh yeah, let's implement a CRM. That sounds good. Sounds like we're moving the company forward, but how?
Yeah, I love the OKR framework. Let's talk about, you've gone to get more embedded even with the next level leaders. Why did you decide to move forward with getting the next level leaders involved, and how has that helped align strategy across a company?
Well, I think we all know that if you really want to grow your company, you have to grow your team. And so, you can have really great leaders at the top, but we know that it's really those next level leaders, the frontline leaders, the managers in the organization, that ultimately that's where we make traction in making change. And so I tend to do split meetings. I'll do a meeting with just the executive team, and let's make sure that we're aligned as an executive team. Are there important strategy issues that we need to discuss? And then we'll have a second day where we actually bring in the next level of leaders. And it does a couple of things. I think, number one, it improves communication and alignment throughout the organization. The more people we can have in the room, the faster we can move because everybody knows what direction we're headed. Number two, it really helps identify that next generation of leaders, and we know how hard it is to find talent in today's labor force. So anything we can do to grow that next level of leaders, it's good for the company, and it's also good for the team members.
That's great. One of the things that we do at Coach.Win for our clients is we do a lot of surveying. And how have you used surveys to get a bigger pulse of the company, to get that information before you even walk into a strategy meeting with both the leadership team and the next leader? How do you use those surveys?
Yeah, that's a really good point, John. I think the other thing about the main point about the survey is that the leadership team will say, hey, here's the state of the organization, here's the pulse, team members are happy. But when you actually use the survey to actually ask everybody in the company, tell me what's going on. Tell me what are the real wins. Tell me what do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? How is the culture? Where can we improve communication? Who are the all-stars? And so by doing this, we're getting everybody in the organization to give that feedback. And quite honestly, the executive teams are usually there's always 2 or 3 things in the surveys that the executive team didn't see coming. And so I'm helping them, find those blind spots and help address them even faster. And so for me, that entire company survey is so critical to be able to vet out what is really happening in the organization.
Yeah. Can you share a story of where your coaching, your next level leaders, your survey has really done a transformational aspect to a business?
Yeah, I mean, there's an organization I work with, and they've got 4 offices across the company, and we invest a lot of time and money. They invest a lot of time and money to bring those leaders together once a quarter. And, it's 2 full days of working with the executive team and those next level leaders. And what we have found is that, they're really, there was a lot of misalignment. There was a lot of confusion from office to office, what they needed to work on. And I think initially it was a perfect example of we were trying to do too much. And when everybody came together and was in the same room and we started talking about it, for example, last year, we narrowed it down to just 2 things. We said, hey, look, there's really only 2 things we need to focus on this year. And so that made a big difference in just getting them to focus. And then I would say the second big thing is we also said, hey, the executive team should not be owning the rocks, the objectives. They should be a true executive sponsor. And we get one of the next level leaders to step up and lead that objective. And then the executive sponsor is truly there as a coach to mentor. And we've seen, in fact, they just recently promoted one of those next level leaders up to the executive team. And I think that was a really great example of, building that next level of leaders and preparing them to literally take over the organization and be that next generation.
That is a great story and a good success story. Well, Rob, how do people get a hold of you to learn more about this process and this embedded coach?
Absolutely. You can reach me at rob@coach.win. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I share quite a bit of information there, but I appreciate your time, John.
Thank you, Rob. Have a great day.